So you're starting to learn German, but how hard is it to learn German? Like, how long is it going to take you to learn this language? If it's your second language, don't worry, Joe's right. English and German are both Germanic languages, so they're very related compared to if you choose Spanish or French. Like, they're not Germanic languages, they're Romance languages, so that makes German that much easier. So the problem with learning German comes with your approach. If you just want to go through like an app and complete the exercises, step 1 to 2, you might have problems because it's really a narrow focused approach and doesn't offer you very much variety. So what I suggest instead is that you find a fun, immersive way with lots of different interactive processes to learn the German language. Breaking it down into like reading, writing, speaking, listening, comprehension, and grammar and vocabulary. These are like the main 5 subjects that you're going to be learning in German. First, some motivation. Think about the English language, okay? It has like 500,000 words, like 500,000 words. It's incredible. And if you think about German, it only has 135,000. So right there, you're saving like 400,000 words that, compared to English that you don't need to learn in German because there aren't any. So while you're probably not always going to be able to express yourself as accurately, the good news is you don't need to learn that much vocabulary. There's also a lot of words that are exactly the same in German and English, or words that just have one different letter or just a slightly different spelling, and you can learn those very easily. So if you already went through the pronunciation guide and know how to say all the letters of the alphabet, all of the vowels and consonant combinations, then it shouldn't be a problem to pronounce the new vocabulary you learn. It might help to keep a list or a notebook handy so that you can write down new words anytime you learn them, maybe into different categories. So right now I'm trying to learn a 3rd language, Spanish. And so now I'm relearning, like reliving what it's like to learn a new language for the first time. And yeah, it's reminding me, I guess, how difficult it was to learn German in the beginning. Because after you learn the language, then sometimes you forget how you learned it in the first place. I know like 1,000 Spanish words, and I think with 1,000 words, you can kind of start to get by. You can start asking questions and saying very simple things, understanding a little bit of conversation here and there. You might not understand everything or the context, which can be a problem, but you'll start to understand and you can build upon this comprehension and understand even more. If you want to learn words that are the same in German and English, head on over to my website and I have a complete list for you there. You can study it and figure out what you already know in German. So you basically know like already hundreds of words in German and you don't even know it. Let's start with learning to speak German. How hard is it to learn how to speak German? Well, if you know how to pronounce the letters of the alphabet and the different letter combinations, it's not that hard. Like, everything is spoken the same way that it's spelled. Not like in English where you have silent letters and all kinds of letter combinations that can sound all kinds of different ways. So you're not going to find sound changing vowels. You're not going to have exceptions to the rules. It's really straightforward. So if you just want to learn the rules and apply them, German's going to be so easy. Just check out my basic pronunciation guide and apply that to any new vocabulary you learn whenever you're practicing German. Yeah, work on your pronunciation and it won't be that hard to speak German. Another hard part you might think about learning German is the grammar. How should you figure out the case system, noun genders, declension, like past, present, future tenses? Like, isn't that so much to learn? If you haven't mastered English grammar yet, like How are you supposed to understand this in a foreign language? Like, you're reading this in English, but you don't even understand what they're talking about, so let alone apply it to the German language. So yeah, luckily German grammar is methodical. You won't find a lot of exceptions to the rules. Very rarely there'll be an exception to the rule. You just learn the rule and you apply it all the time. It's that easy. If you learn in a logical, like sequential order, chronological order, like step 1 to step 10, go through each lesson building upon the knowledge that you started with, like the grammar will make a lot of sense. Like, you don't start with the most difficult grammar topics. You start with the easiest thing. Like learning what is the nominative case? What is the accusative case? What is the dative case? Like, you start with the basics and build upon that information as you go along. For example, like in Spanish, I haven't learned the future or past tenses yet. Like, I'm still struggling to learn verbs, but you can still understand like the gist of things and you can build on this knowledge. It's not like the end of the world, the end of the line. You're going to keep learning and adding to the knowledge base that you have. So break down German grammar into manageable little tidbits. That's what I do for you. At my website, you can learn more about German grammar. You can do some practice exercises after each segment for free and see right on the website, you can check the answer if it's correct or wrong. And it doesn't need to be boring either. Like, you can be creative and fun with the sentences you make and the vocabulary you want to learn. Learning German vocabulary really depends on what kind of German you want to learn. Are you learning German for personal, fun reasons because you want to study abroad, because you want to work in German or work with Germans, like for business reasons? What's your reason for learning German? Once you figure that out, you'll know which vocabulary you need to learn and which you might not need to learn. And there could be some special categories of vocabulary specific to your occupation or to the place you want to travel. Maybe you want to learn about the landmarks there or the street names. So that would be a different vocabulary set for you based on why you want to learn German. And I would recommend just starting a vocabulary list with different categories, like maybe food, travel, everyday phrases, whatever makes sense to you, to start organizing the vocabulary you learn and keeping track of what you know and don't know. Some words you might remember easier than others. The words that you have the most trouble with, I would recommend making some flashcards. Digital flashcards can help you keep track of words you have gotten wrong the most frequently, and so you can look at those over again. And I'd also like to know that it's important to figure out why you want to learn German. And this could be for so many different reasons, like moving ahead with your career, studying abroad in Germany, living and working in Germany. Maybe you go to Germany as part of the military. Maybe you want to find long-lost family and friends who speak German. You can also rediscover the internet. Like, there's so much content in German that you wouldn't find in English. So you can find all kinds of new content that you couldn't read before. That also goes for literature, books, music. Like, you can understand all that German stuff. And even play video games with your German-speaking friends. I don't know, figure out your own why you want to learn German, and that'll make it more motivating. So instead of learning German harder and studying harder, I would recommend learning smarter. So what I mean is that you don't need to study parts of the language that you won't use. You want to have clear, achievable goals, and if you want to speak everyday German, for example, you don't need to know all kinds of medical, technical terms. Maybe you want to focus on certain phrases. Maybe you just want to learn the 1,000 most common words in German. Based on the topics that interest you, Study those first and stay interested, and don't get bored with things that aren't that relevant to what you want to learn. Another way to make learning German easier is finding good practice opportunities. Now you're probably wondering, like, where am I supposed to practice German? Do I just start talking to myself? But there are ways you can start practicing. So you can start with easy to understand books. Like when I was studying German at the university, we read lots of children's books in German, and they have simple words, and you can start there learning the basic vocabulary. You can also watch German movies, German TV shows, German blogs, video content. You might want to explore other language learning apps or explore Germany apps. Maybe you want to listen to music from Germany. You can find a language buddy online. There's a lot of other people on social media groups that are learning German. You can easily connect with them and have a practice German conversation. And another thing you can try is turning on German subtitles when you're watching your favorite shows. So if you're listening to it in German, you can turn on German subtitles, or listen to it in English with German subtitles. It depends on your level. If you're just starting out, make it easier. You don't have to listen to it in German. Just look at the subtitles so you can catch some vocabulary here and there. There's also lots of German podcasts or German recipes, like depending on whatever it is you're interested in, your hobbies. Go find some of that information in German. Use the German Google, google.de, and search for content in the German language and see how much you can understand. By combining your German practice with other things you normally do and enjoy, you can kind of integrate it in an immersive way into your language learning journey. Let's say, for example, you're watching a film with German subtitles on, and you notice at the bottom that the word for test drive is Testfahrt. So yeah, maybe you'll start to remember that. Maybe it'll be more familiar to you next time you see the word. And another important part of the German language learning process is learning about German culture. Because without learning about the German culture, you won't understand why the vocabulary and grammar is the way it is. Part of learning a foreign language is understanding the culture of the countries that speak it. Like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland all have different cultural influences on the language that changed it slightly in different ways. So, for example, one way the German language is different than English is that English is a lot more flexible. We can invent our own words, and we can communicate with them, and we use subtle details to share our emotions. But German language is not so emotional, and it's really straightforward and abrupt. So you kind of just say what you mean and mean what you say. It's very practical, and they're not very flexible with the words or the grammar, or like people might look at you weird if you invent your own German word. Like, what are you talking about? They're not going to find it funny. Finally, you need to have patience when you're learning German. Small tidbits and regular practice is going to be a lot more helpful than just binge practicing and forgetting what you learned like a week later. So if you can find small ways to integrate German learning into your everyday life, it's going to be so much more beneficial for the whole process. So subscribe to My Germanized Life for some more easy German learning tips, and come join me next time when we learn some more German together.